Hey guys, it's Matt. Chapter 39 continues the next question. What is the Holy Grail? Yeah, that's right. What is the Holy Grail? I can hear you. I can hear people say, oh, that's awfully arrogant, don't you think? It would be arrogant if I'm sitting up here in this hood telling you exactly what it is, and you need to pay attention. I know exactly what it is. I know you don't. You sit down, pay attention. If it was like that, it would be arrogant. But it's not the way I'm going to present it. A disclaimer is in order. I will present something with confidence, the first part. It is not what society and culture has led you to believe it is. It is not what Not Milk says. That we know 100% for sure. In terms of everything else, is it magic dishes? Is it a cup? Is it... Okay, I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think it is on the back end. We may disagree. I'll look to your comments. But for sure, and the main premise of this entire channel for basically 10 years, it is not, of course, what society and culture wants you to believe it to be. It's not arrogant to try to figure out what the riddle of the Holy Grail really means. On the inverse side, it's just plain old dumb to believe what society and culture tells you and just go along with it. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Can I have another? To go along with what this society says in almost anything is just downright dumb. I have the right to try to figure it out. These things that present itself through society and culture carried prominently through time in terms of what we'll call Humpty Dumptys, stuffed Lenins. I have a right to figure it out because it presents itself. These concepts and themes present themselves so prominently in society through so many different aspects of art and culture, through the entire reality itself. It's begging to be figured out. It's begging to have somebody give it an interpretation other than what the Not Milk is just going to vomit up at people. This is what a Humpty Dumpty is for. And guess what the good news is? If it's truth we can use to figure out ourselves or our predicament in this reality, it's always simple. So in analyzing the Holy Grail, let's concentrate on the first characteristic we need to be aware of. It's a gigantic, hijacked, stuffed Lenin is what it is. It's a gigantic, hijacked Humpty Dumpty. What a coincidence. This is yet another 1,000-year mislead. I'm using that as a verb. It's a 1,000-year mislead via a famous story carried through time artificially. One of the most famous Humpty Dumptys of all time. Now, I hope no Christians are taking offense. The Holy Grail is not even in the Bible. That's right, not a mention of it. But in general, I'm speaking of how world famous the Holy Grail story is, away from the Bible. In art, media, Arthurian legend. The Arthurian legend by itself is a gigantic Humpty Dumpty that has no right to be as world famous as it is. We'll do a video on that, but it's not one of my book questions. It's artificially world famous, the Holy Grail. There's a reason for that when that happens in reality. Everyone on earth outside of a pygmy tribe has some sort of mental image of what they believe the Holy Grail to be. Tap anybody on the street if that was legal. Tell me about the Holy Grail. What do you think it is? They're going to say something. They might say a cup, and then Da Vinci Code, magic dishes, or whatever she said. Sophie. We'll talk about that in the Da Vinci Code. You tap a pygmy tribe, or I don't know what you're talking about. The pygmy tribe won't know. Everybody else knows, or they have some sort of mental image. Where did that mental image come from? Came from Not Milk, of course. The key is how almost everybody on earth would describe what they believe the Holy Grail to be is wrong. Almost 99 plus whatever percent. Now, what else would you expect from one of the biggest Not Milk deceptions of all time? And as usual, employing an age-old Humpty Dumpty tactic, when the legend of the thing dies down a bit, like the embers on the fire going quiet, the Not Milk then stokes it back up. We talk about these stuffed Lenins or Humpty Dumptys being, quote, artificially carried through time. The legend and the lore is just as popular in this generation, say, as it was 200 years ago. How does that happen? Well, the Holy Grail might not be a great example. There's a lot of other things like row, row, row your boat, how those ridiculous things that should have died out after a week keep going for hundreds of years. But that also applies to the Holy Grail. And I'm sure it doesn't happen like this. But it's almost like the creeps sit around a table, and they're like, what's up next on the agenda here? Anybody have more coffee? The Holy Grail, this Generation Z, what do they know about it? Well, they know about it, but it's not as popular or as world famous as it needs to be in this generation. We're not doing our job carrying this forth as minions, doing the task of what the reality requires of us. Guys, I don't know exactly. Just go with this. I don't know exactly the mechanism here. But say, well, shit, how do we get it popular again? And one of them at the meeting said, I know, sir. Didn't we get that guy Dan Brown years? That's that lazy son of a beach. He wrote those books, The Da Vinci Code, and they were very popular. But it's not doing its job. We need to bring the Holy Grail back up to the forefront. Get Dan Brown, that lazy son of a beach, on the phone. Tell him we're going to do a whole movie series, The Da Vinci Code, then Angels and Demons. We need to push the Holy Grail back up to the forefront. We're not doing our job in this generation. We got to put everything we have into it. Does that mean the typical not milk #1 puppet star? That's right. Get that. What is his name? Bosom buddies. Get Tom Hanks and tell that Chet Hanks, his son, that little bastard, to clean up his act. Get Tom Hanks in here. Get Ron Howard in here. We need to bring in the best because we're not doing our job contractually. We need to push the Holy Grail and what we lie to people about to the forefront again. Now, somebody out there that stumbled upon this video, he's looking for the cat that bangs on the piano keys and how cute that is. He was looking for that. He found this. He said, wait a second. My mama warned me about YouTube channels like this. You telling me there's a group like the Aluminum Ducati or Men in Black that their job is to perpetuate the notion or the legend and lure of the Holy Grail, and it wasn't popular enough in a current generation, so they actually needed to push it out via What? This is ridiculous. You should be locked up, sir. Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Yes, the lie of what the Holy Grail is and what they tell society it is needed to be perpetuated. I don't know if it's in their contract or why this happens, but it happens. They did it in a weird roundabout way in the Da Vinci Code. Maybe they had another meeting. It doesn't work like this, but it's the only way we can comprehend it. And they said, well, we're not going to push it out again as another magic bowl or a gold cup people are sick of that shit. Push it out as the bloodline of Jesus Christ. We can perpetuate the notion of the Holy Grail and just twist the lie in a little bit different way and get people to think about it in a little bit different way, but still the way we want them to think. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. The Holy Grail being something that can be found or researched outside of themselves. Oh, this is the time to put a spin on it, and will really confuse the masses and the proletariat great unwashed sons of bitches. So for 2,000 years, it was just an item. It was just a cup or whatever it may be. And maybe, I don't know, they needed to put a different spin on it. It's very interesting. We'll talk about it more towards the end of this presentation, what the Da Vinci Code maybe was out to be. Potentially another truth drop associated with this stuffed Lenin. But over the course of 2,000 years, well, a cup, a chalice. It has been described as a bowl. It's been described even as a stone. There's other interpretations, but of course, it's always some item that idiots can get in their clippity-clop like Monty Python and go out and find, or it's hidden somewhere in a cave. And if you could be lucky enough to stumble upon that cave, you could find it. It's like winning a lottery ticket. Most people think of it as a cup or a chalice, and if that's the case, it's almost always associated with Christ's Last Supper. Few legends have it as the cup Jesus was offered on the cross. Jesus was offered a wine with, was it myrrh or something, some sort of a spice or herb or something? But that doesn't make any sense because it says in Mark or whatever that Jesus didn't take it. And the cup was wine with myrrh. I don't know how to pronounce the spice or whatever. It's like turmeric or whatever. He didn't take it. That's clear in the Bible. So everything Jesus discarded becomes the Holy Grail. How did this even start? It's like, Jesus, would you like this ham sandwich? No, sorry. Did that offend anybody? Swine. That's right. I just saw that scene in Pulp Fiction. I don't eat swine. Why? Bacon tastes good. Pork chop tastes good. Jesus, would you like this turkey sandwich? No, thank you. Good. The turkey sandwich is now the Holy Grail. It doesn't make any sense, but that's part of what I researched. Anyway, the point is it's not no confusion on purpose. It's all over the place to hide what it really means to real people. Okay, all kidding aside, in terms of something this important, where do we start? You know where we start? Where we should start almost every time now, with the lessons we've learned over the last 10 to 15 years, the simple rules that are almost never broken. Isn't that a good place to start, even with something as potentially as important as the Holy Grail? Rules that the asshole Darkleg needs to live by. We should know them by now, don't you think? The rule of opposites. Have we ever talked about that on this channel? If not milk books, art, and media tell us it's a cup or a bowl or an item of like that, we know then for sure it's not a cup or a bowl or an item like that. The rule of opposites. It tells us it's this in thousands of forms of media and its art and whatever it presents, then we know for sure, per the rule of opposites, that what the Holy Grail really means or represents, more importantly, is not that. Okay? You could say, hey, Thanks, Not Nilk. Thank you, son. Thanks, Not Nilk, for telling me what you want me to believe it is. Then you can go the other way and have a good starting point for finding what it really is. Matt, this rule of opposites always applies. Well, we have to use almost always. I mean, we have to give ourselves a little wiggle room. I don't think it's ever been broken in terms of Not Nilk presentations. It probably does always, but we have to say it almost always applies. So we have our wall here of Post-it note, throw a dart, vomp. It hit the topic, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And now Not Nilk puts forth that this is a brilliant man. This is a brilliant scientist, an astrophysicist that got his degree from the bottom of a Cracker Jack box. That's not what Not Nilk presents, so you take the rule of opposites. He's just out to help you. He's out to further scientific understanding. He wants what's best for you. Well, I think it's all across the board opposites with this presentation, but there's at least one major opposite. If he is brilliant, then he's not out to help anybody. Okay, it's probably all opposite. He's probably not brilliant. He probably can't do third grade Common Core math. He probably isn't out to help anybody, of course. It's opposites across the board. What is an opposite? We know for sure all he cares about is a baked ziti. So applying the rule of opposites to the Holy Grail, if they tell us not just that it's a cup, but it's a thing that can be found out there somewhere, then we know it is not a thing that can be found out there somewhere. It's that simple. It's nothing that can ever be found out there. It's been so artificially carried through time in this manner with such rigor, without basis. It's not even in the Bible. Then I know what the Holy Grail really means is actually extremely important, because we see how important it is to Not Nilk. Once we identify it as something artificial, then we say, "Ooh, there's some hidden meaning here, something I can use." That's what a real person should be saying. I don't know what a person is. So in summary, the predictable deceiver that never wavers in the way it makes a presentation, it tells me it's something people need to go find. And maybe we'll find it, discover it, and you need to search out there for it. And then you say one last time, "Thanks, Not Nilk." It tells me then for sure it's not a physical thing. It's a concept then, an idea, or meaning that can only be found within. The Not Nilk is so predictable, and we should know for sure exactly the way to turn or the way to go based on what it says. If it was giving directions on the side of the road, like that scene in St. Louis in Vacation, it says, "Can you tell me how to get the heck out of this neighborhood? How do I get on the highway? How do I get on the highway west? We want to get to Wally World. Get me out of this horrible St. Louis neighborhood." If the Not Nilk was giving directions, said, "You go up here, 1 mile, you turn right," what you would do is peel out and go in the exact opposite direction of what the Not Nilk man on the street in St. Louis says to go. So the opposite of a physical thing to be found out there is an idea or concept that we can use in here. And where does that bring us? It brings us, Matt, to the same place every single time. It brings us back to worry about yourself activities. It brings us back to the same place every single time. And people laugh when I say it's a half page. What the Not Nilk is out to do is the same one sentence every single time. The way it does it in its presentation is basically the same long run-on sentence every single time, with a few add-ons like simple rules, like rule of opposites. Then what we need to do, worry about yourself, it's the same sentence every single time. But Matt, these simple concepts, I kind of see what you're saying, but they certainly don't apply over here to Tartary research. They don't apply over here to what I mentioned. No, they don't apply there. Yeah, that's right. I'll just shut down the entire channel. You're right. What you're researching is not part of the Not Nilk trick, whatever it may be. I pick on Tartary. Whatever it may be, the 1,000 breadcrumbs it put forth, what you're interested in is not part of the reality trick. I'm sorry. I'm just going to shut down the entire channel. But Matt, I've been researching alien abduction and there's thousands of people. You're right. What you're interested in is not part of the reality trick that presents itself the same way every single time. Once again, I'm sorry. Anybody else that has their little area of interest want to come forth, and I'll give you a pass and say, no, it's not part of the trick. You go off and do more research. Now, getting back to the Holy Grail, if there was any doubt about what I'm saying at all, the Monty Python Holy Grail movie, mocking those who search the lands far and wide for the Grail, tells us all we need to know. It tells us, if you search it out there, you're an asshole who rides a pretend horse with a squire who runs behind you banging coconuts. Bring forth your master. Tell him it is I, Arthur, King of the Britons.
Oh, what you got there?
What do you mean, sir? We're riding horses.
No, you're not. You're banging coconuts.
Or the other scene, if you prefer.
How do you know she's a witch?
Sorry. The Monty Python and the Holy Grail movie makes those who search for the Grail the biggest bunch of moronic assholes you can imagine. And that's what anybody is what it's saying if you search for it out there. Are you saying John Cleese and those people knew the meaning of the Holy Grail and all this occult? No, I don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think so. Sometimes real meaning is communicated in art. We have like 10,000 examples of this at this time. I mean, somebody sent me something, I guess Michelle sent me something the other day about how even George Lucas didn't even understand the certain spiritual messages that were being delivered in the first 3 Star Wars, and thus the reason it needs to be destroyed today. Many songwriters have no idea the meanings that are being expressed through them in their art. We'll talk about that some other time. The Holy Grail is essentially what this entire book is about. The book of reality, few can see, too much conspiracy. I guess it's fun. It's interesting. If you have a long drive, it's still the first 70 videos on this channel. Too much conspiracy, too much analysis of the breadcrumbs, which we won't do anymore. I'm not going to pull that book down, but I wouldn't spend too much time on it, unless you're on a long drive, long-haul truckers that really find it interesting and useful. But other than that, too much breadcrumb. Don't need to know all the details as to how these creeps do what they do. We generally see in a few sentences what they're out to do. On behalf of the screen, on behalf of the outer ring of reality. That's all we need to know. The Holy Grail is not magic dishes as stated by Sophie in the Da Vinci Code, or nothing out there that can be found. It's not even a Happy Meal with a special toy inside. The Holy Grail is a real person essentially clearing away the fog of this reality to find the spiritual truth of who they are and what they really are. That is essentially the Holy Grail. It's within. Of course it is. Now, there's slight hybrids and different interpretations of this general theme. Someone like our friend Aurora, per her video yesterday, may say the Holy Grail is that piece of us here that we have to put back together to remember, or there's a piece, a spiritual piece, that in some way needs to be brought back home. Now, I don't know exactly what she means by this. I'll continue to investigate it, but it sounds a lot like Humpty Dumpty to me. Dumbass looked at the king's horses and men. He looked at society and gurus and priests, and all of that can't put you back together, but you definitely can do it yourself, no doubt about it. No matter what needs to be done, that's going to be everyone's own interpretation. The great news is you have the ability to do it yourself. If you're on an island with not one page of a book to read, you can do it yourself. Okay, this is blasphemy to a lot of Christians. I appreciate you being here. One of the main differences that will always exist between us is I don't need anybody to do what I'm supposed to do here. I could do it by myself on an island, without a page of a book, without any priest, okay, I appreciate you being here. You think you need something to help you? I don't. Okay, we will disagree. I don't think I'll ever come off that. The good news is, Humpty Dumpty, that stuff, Lennon, it looked to the king's horses, it looked to the king's men, it looked to society's assholes to help out. None of those fools could help Humpty Dumpty. He kept looking to those fools. He lays on the ground in pieces. Now get the king's, you know what the king's horses are going to do? Try to make glue out of that son of a bitch. What can we do? The king's men probably fined him for littering. You littered yourself in pieces all over somebody's lawn. Fine. Put that Humpty Dumpty son of a beach in jail. Don't look to the king's horses and men represent society, represent the Neil deGrasse Tysons of the world and the Mitch Pikachus. You have the ability to do it yourself, whatever it may be. No, there's the no consequences. People think, no, we don't need to do nothing. Just lie on the couch and we're all spiritually protected and we're just here for under the palm trees. Other smart people believe, that meaning to life is to understand that life has meaning and you have to do something here. You have to put yourself in a way back together and you don't have an unlimited amount of time to do it. And you may be coming back again if you don't do it, but it's up to you. That's always the best news. Look at the elements of the Old Grail story and legend. Finding your personal understanding, it does, in a way, there are elements that we can always take away from it. It does require a search. The way about yourself activities, understanding who you truly are, whatever you need to do here for your spiritual whole, does require a search. Look who I am now versus who I was in the insurance company in Los Angeles and San Francisco, who you were 10 or 15 years ago, or even 2 years ago. It requires a search or a journey. This place tells you to focus your life on all the things that are not important, because you see it trying to hide that search from you. That tells you how important it is. Again, rule of opposites. It gives itself away. Reality gives itself away. Not Milk's actions give away what we're supposed to be doing here for ourselves. It's here. Even the creeps are here for us. Holy Grail is never out there. It's inside you. Now, I'll look to your comments. Obviously, Matt, do you have an exact understanding of what you need to know? But at least I know I'm looking in the right toy box. At least I'm walking the correct path. I know that. Going through this sort of exercise, I mean, we see, everybody listening to me, I'm sure, shares in what I'm about to say. It's so comical to go look to an official source to explain something of deep meaning like this. Just absolutely ludicrous to go start searching at Wikipedia. Let me go to Wikipedia to say, to tell me what the Holy Grail is. I mean, just is so absurd to go to an official source for anything of deep meaning. You know, if you go out there, what are they? Are they e-begging today? Is Wikipedia e-begging? Matt, it's January 2nd. We've seen you use Wikipedia 5 times the last week. You need to pay up. Pay up. Or it's like the paper boy in Better Off Dead. $2. Wikipedia e-begging for $2. Wikipedia, you might be the top not milk villainous tool of all time. You'll never need money. Go bother someone else with your e-begging. Matt, the woman in the Da Vinci Code, her name is Sophie. Now, don't you think that's a play on the Gnostic Sophia? Of course it is. What does it mean? I have no idea. I don't care to know. I don't care to understand their creepy ways. Me researching and understanding and putting forth why she's called Sophie in the movie as some sort of representation of the Gnostic Sophia and how it relates to the demiurge or whatever, that would be something I would put a book chapter in a reality for you can see. That is the stuff I used to chase. Why that's important to them, why that present, who knows? Who cares? It has. If you figure it out, if you spend the rest of your life searching it out, it does nothing for worry about yourself activities. Matt, why do they cover the right eye of these celebrities in the thousands of photographs? Who cares? It means something to the. I can guarantee you one thing. You figuring out why Bono's covering his right eye, why Michael Jackson's covering all these pictures, you figuring out what they're trying to represent has nothing to do with what you need to do in this reality for yourself. Guys, quick side note. I guess, was it like 3 years ago, I remember doing that video about that church in Europe that claims they have a bowl or magic dishes of they claim to have the Grail. And I was thinking, what? I'm sure others claim they have the Grail too. And you look at it for just two, it's so ridiculous. I mean, here's something here. But the Basilica of San Isidoro isn't the only Spanish church that claims to house the Holy Grail. The Valencia Cathedral in Valencia also professes to have it. Like the Basilica in Lyon, they say they have evidence to prove it. So there's multiple, not just churches that they claim, they claim they have the Grail. I mean, come on, they should be ashamed of themselves. So Matt, the Holy Grail and the meaning associated with the false narrative of magic dishes is really a real person coming to an understanding of who they truly are, their divine nature, and potentially the last part of that, what they're supposed to do here, or that last piece so they can finally get out or at least accomplish what this life was for. And that's where we still don't have the answer. That's the worry about yourself activities. That's what we will continue to do over the next 10 or 20 years on our own. But at least we're on the right path. Now, you think it's just coming to an understanding about who you are and a few spiritual things you need to do for your divine whole and the part of you that's potentially not here. You think that's it? Yeah, it's one sentence. Yeah, I do think that's it. Well, if you're going to take an interpretation of the Holy Grail that's completely 180 degrees away from what society and culture says, don't you think it needs to be a little bit more complicated? No. The highest truths are simple. If you want not milk complexity, well, there are about 400 million pages of esoteric and occult writing waiting for you to just dive into that. Esoteric and philosophical nonsense is what all of it is. Because I've mentioned her so much in passing, I actually started to read one of Madame Blavatsky's books, Isis Unveiled. Another title is called Blavatsky. unveiled. And I said, I can't keep mentioning her and passing whatever without at least reading as much as I can. So I started reading it. And you know what I found? Exactly what I expected. People that are so smart are in love with their own intelligence. Now, this woman, whoever she was or is, could be 1,000 times smarter than I am. But people that are that smart, they know they're that smart. And it has to come out in the way they write. And it becomes nonsense. And it becomes just dribble. I don't even know if that's a word. I make shit up. She doesn't. She actually uses real words from the dictionary. It's all nonsense. It gets so complicated so quickly. I should read you a passage now. We'll do it in separate videos. Well, Matt, like Sharon Stone said, now you've done it. Add her to somebody else that's going to be waiting in the light for you. Is it Hermes? You pissed him off, right? He's there in the light on the day of your death with a big pipe. Now Madame Blavatsky will be waiting in the light, blocking the way for you with a bicycle chain. Madame Blavatsky will pop out and say, who are you? I'm Hermes Trace Great. I'm waiting for Matt. I'm waiting for Matt too. We got that in common. Let's beat his ass. But like I said, I disagree. I think Hermes will appreciate some of my take on the Kabbalion and not be waiting for me with a pipe. As we explore Madame Blavatsky together, I think she's big enough. If I say, Madame Blavatsky, this section is just pointless bloviation, I think she'll be okay with that. We'll see. Don't put them blocking my light just yet, okay? Give me a chance. Look at this right here from Madame Blavatsky. We'll get back to the Holy Grail in just a moment. We're going to do whole videos on this, guys. The first thing I thought of, check it out. She writes in Isis Unveiled, no man, however gross and material he may be, can avoid leading a double existence. She says he leads a double existence, one in the visible universe and other in the invisible. The life principle which animates his physical frame is chiefly in the astral body, and while the more animal portions of him rest, the more spiritual ones know neither limits nor obstacles. That's very interesting, related to what happens to us when we dream. But the first thing I thought of was James Bond. I'm not joking. You only live twice. There's a song. I'm not joking in any way. In any way. You only live twice. Or so it seems. One for yourself and one for your dreams. That's Madame Blavatsky, right? The damn James Bond song. We're going to have a field day when we dive into this book. Oh, there's thousands of pages here to make fun of. So a summary on the Holy Grail. First off, I admit there are other component parts to what the Holy Grail truly represents that, of course, I don't yet understand. That comes with the worry about yourself. That comes with doing the work. That comes with part 2. Now, I know for sure I'm thrilled I'm on the right path. I know it's no cup and nothing out there. So I'm in the right place. I'm in the right toy box. In terms of what this will turn out to be, who knows? We'll find it together, hopefully. Is it a frequency or an exact resonance that goes along with getting to a certain level or coming to a certain understanding? I don't know. I'm not there yet. But we're getting close. It gets right here. Tesla's popping into mind. The key to understanding the universe is frequency, vibration, understanding. Not an understanding the universe. It's pointless to try to understand the universe. It's a big trick. But maybe the key to understanding ourselves is frequency, resonance, and vibration. So we are searching for the Grail in the right place. We're not, I am Arthur, King of the Britons. We're not clippity-clopping with coconuts. Okay, we're in the right place. How many people around us are in the right place? Not many. So if you think the society and culture and its rewards and awards that it can bestow on you, and that is what is to be achieved in life, it's telling you what you are in Monty Python's Holy Grail in the opening scene. You are Arthur, King of the Britons, with your clippity-clop, and that's who you are. It's showing you, if you look to this life for your rewards, which you're going to put on your headstone, wonderful husband, owner of 5 law firms and 2 magenta speedboats, if you put the things of this world on your headstone, you were fooled, my friend. That's it, Matt? What is the Holy Grail, and what is it? Your under 30-minute presentation? Just some son of a beach talking over. That's it? Yeah. What do you want me to do? Make shit up? It's simple. The rules that get us closest to truth are always simple. How the Knock Nook makes presentations is predictable and simple. But Matt, there have been whole college classes on Arthurian legend, and 2 months of that class is on the Grail. Yeah? And they wasted their time. And because it's a university system, they wasted a lot of money too. And I'm sure some of those classes actually spent weeks on Grail quests. Again, they should start with the Monty popping in the Monty Python movie in VHS or Betamax tape. They talked about Grail quests. I'm sure there's all sorts of research that can be done on that. And those fools, they'd be better off going to an arcade, going to the back of the arcade, putting a quarter in a damn machine that gets you a toy. And since the theme here is school and universities, everybody listening to me is going to have some homework. I'm not joking. There's no syllabus to refer to. Listen to what I'm saying. Here's your homework. Over the next month, go find some sort of fancy cup or chalice or an ornate cup, whatever ornate means. Find whatever you need. A dollar store can probably get it done. They probably have some plastic thing that looks like a chalice. You can spray paint it gold. Then go to the craft store, here we have Michael's, and get these sticky letters or whatever. And you put the sticky letters equidistant around the edge of the cup. After you spray paint it, wait for it to dry. And you put N-O-T, not milk, not this. The Holy Grail, you just put an N-O-T-T-H-I-S, all spaced out all the way around to 360 degrees. And you look at it and remember, Holy Grail, not this. Holy Grail, not a real thing. Holy Grail, inside you. Remember, the Ring of the Schwartz from Spaceballs has more utility than the Holy Grail being a material thing that you can pick up and put in a damn case. Now, along these same lines, I think we can apply these same rules to all other famous material objects that we're told could be found someday. Haven't they found Noah's Ark on the top of a hill and anything that it's all bullshit, in my opinion. So let's get to where this could be blasphemous to Christians. It's a totally different thing here, but I'm still going here. For example, Indiana Jones in the movie spent an entire 2 hours looking for the Ark of the Covenant. Now, this is fighting words to many Christians, and give me a moment. I'll represent you fairly. I know you can't be here. I'll be fair. I hear you saying, Matt, I hear what you're saying about the Holy Grail. It's not even in the Bible. But the Ark of the Covenant, something completely different. You can't put these two together. Right in Exodus, Ark of the Covenant, exact description, contains the Ten Commandments. Housed or covered in gold, at least the top of it. It gives the dimensions of it in cubits. I had to look that up. What the hell is a cubit? A cubit? It's the length of your finger down your arm to your elbow. Wouldn't that be different if you're Shaq or like Dr. Ruth Westheimer? That's what a cubit is. So next time you go to a hardware store, get whatever the hose they're getting for you. Get it. Order it in cubits. Confuse the hell out of them. It gives the dimensions. It appears in other books of the Bible, Matt. Still, there is nothing out there in this world to be found of power. It always has another meaning. It may be incredibly important in the Bible, but it's not what you think it is. This is my belief, and this is a rule of reality I don't think is ever broken. So in general, if society and culture says this is what it is, and I'm even going to extend my own belief to the Ark of the Covenant, even though there's a description in the Bible, then no, that's not what it is. Like, I don't think there really was a fight between David and Goliath, a giant. I think that means something. I don't believe there was a literal fight. So I hear what many of you want to tell me. Like, Matt, again, this is different. Holy Grail not mentioned. This is an exact object from the Bible. Matt, I agree with you on this, Matt. You're not going to find it. We're not going to find it. Nobody's going to find it because they've had it. They have it in the Vatican Library where they keep the plans for the free energy and everything else they don't give to us. Okay, I hear you. Maybe. Just my belief is when an object there's another meaning to find. Maybe this wasn't the greatest example because of how clear the Bible is on it, at least from a Christian perspective. But anything that's presented that's so important to society and culture, there's another meaning that we have to take away from it that can help us understand ourselves. I don't know in this case what that would be in terms of the Ark of the Covenant. Maybe it was a bad example I shouldn't have gotten into, but nevertheless, I wanted you to know my belief set on all these presentations. Maybe we'll do a whole video sometime on the Ark of the Covenant. I have issues with it. I really do. I mean, dressed in gold across the top with gold rings. First thing I thought, man, don't get involved in this, but what does God need of gold? It's like that in that, what is it, The Undiscovered Country with Captain Kirk, or what does God need of a starship? It was not God. I think it was supposed to be the demiurge or something. It was some trapped entity. It needed the starship to get out of its prison. I think it was supposed to represent the demiurge probably in the Star Trek movie. What does God need with a star? What does God need with a gold box? Why is it in gold? Wouldn't it be better off chipping the gold pieces away and giving the gold to the poor? Matt, it's a whole new can of worms here. Let's wrap this video up and do this some other time. Yeah, good point. Let me not lose track of the whole reason for this presentation. The Holy Grail is nothing that can ever be found outside yourself. Ain't no cup, ain't no object, ain't no sunshine when she's gone, ain't no Windows 10 upgrade. It's nothing out there. It's something that's very important to find what the interpretation of the Holy Grail, to find what it is for yourself. Thanks for listening.